Welcome to Power of Passion, the podcast from the Ferdinando and Luigi Innocenti Foundation, where we explore the power of passion and how what we love shapes who we become. In each episode, we sit down with people who have discovered a passion that brings them joy, growth, and meaning. Together, we explore how passions begin, how they evolve, and how they help young people imagine new possibilities for their futures. Whether a passion becomes a career or simply something that brings us joy, it matters. And this is a space for us to talk about it. So let's dive into today's conversation. And today's episode was mostly recorded at the Sussex Final of the National Speak Out Challenge, delivered by Speakers Trust in partnership with the Ferdinando and Luigi Innocenti Foundation. Over the past year, up to 300 students from across Sussex have taken part in public speaking workshops, developing the confidence and communication skills to speak out about the issues they care about. I got to attend the live event in Brighton, and in this episode, you'll be hearing from some of the finalists, as well as 2 members of the Speakers Trust team and one of the judges from the event. This first clip you'll hear is from my interview with Victoria Costello, who is the head of philanthropy, enterprise, and growth at Speakers Trust. Victoria and I talked about the mission of the Speakers Trust and how the Ferdinando and Luigi Innocenti Foundation got involved with their work. This is Victoria.
Here at the Speakers Trust, we exist because we believe that young people have the most extraordinary ideas for change, they have interesting passions, and yet they're just not really ever given a chance to think about what it is that they care about, then given the skills to share it, and then most importantly, have a platform to share those exciting ideas for what they want their future to look like with their community, to bring that community together. So that's why we exist. What we do and how we do that is actually really simple. We go into schools, we deliver one day where young people are given space to think about something that really interests them, or think about a change that they want to see in their homes, in their schools, in their communities, or on a wider political scale. We then give them all the skills and confidence they need to share that with the rest of the group. So all of those sort of traditional public speaking things that you think about. So how do you structure a great speech? How do you stand? How do you project your voice? How do you use your eye contact? How can you use things like rhetoric and questions and quotes and all of that to really make your point land? Once we've done that one day of training, we take young people to events. So one young person from each school that we've worked in each region, and we give them an opportunity to share that passion on a stage with the bright lights and cameras and photographers and an audience of like 200 people. And they share that with their communities. It means that young people feel heard. It gives them a whole bunch of skills for them moving outside of school. It helps them feel that their opinion matters and that we really want to hear what it is that they have to say. But it also brings communities together. We have people who maybe haven't spoken to a teenager since they were a teenager themselves, and they get a better idea of the challenges and excitements of being 15. And maybe they'll change something they do differently tomorrow. It is a competition, so we have a panel of judges, and that's usually the local mayor, the local MP, community leaders, so people who can really take away the messages of the young people and use those voices to make change.
That was the most wonderful summary of all of the work that you do. And I think I've been learning so much about what the Speakers Trust has done, and it's incredible. Just on the day, I feel like I was kind of thrown in and then got to do kind of some research after. And it's just amazing the different areas and how many young people you've worked with. And with this event, the Ferdinando and Luigi Innocenti Foundation was involved in it. Can you tell me a little bit about how they got involved and what their role was in the National Speak Out Challenge?
At Speakers Trust, we're really proud to work with roughly 40,000 young people every year all over the country. But we knew and we know that our challenge isn't over yet. We're really happy to work with that many young people, but that equally means there's hundreds of thousands of young people who are leaving school without those skills, or even being in school without those skills. It means they don't engage in their communities as much. We know that when they get into the workplace, it means their voice isn't heard as much. They're much less likely to share their opinions. So we knew that although our reach was awesome and we're really proud of it, quite frankly, it wasn't enough. So what we wanted to do was a little bit bold And there aren't many people that will take a risk on a very bold, interesting change in our delivery mode. And we were so grateful that FL&I Foundation stepped into that role to help us be a little bit innovative, knew that maybe it would work or maybe it didn't work, and took a gamble on us. And I'm so happy to say that the gamble has paid off. Because of their support, we have trained up hundreds of teachers across 5 new regions. What that means is we can go in and deliver a workshop to a group of young people, but it means that it doesn't end there. It means that those teachers who already have relationships with the students, they already have great teaching skills, can then go on and train hundreds, if not thousands, of other young people in the school. So although we can now reach 40,000, because we have this awesome cohort of teachers that we have trained, they can go on to train hundreds of thousands of young people. It means that we're more sustainable. It increases our reach. It's also increasing our impact because teachers get to know their students a little bit better and they're already so well equipped to deliver it. So we started this project, honestly, a little unsure. We had no idea how it was going to turn out. And then this incredible foundation got in touch with me one day and said, hey, do you know what? We'll take a risk on this and we'll take a chance. And it's not just been financial support from FL&I. They have put us in touch with brand new impact people who have really pushed us to find new ways of measuring impact. They have turned up to events and met the young people, and the young people are so happy to see them. Introduce me to people like you, Lily and Lizzie, and people who can really help us with our comms. So I don't really see it as like a funder-fundee relationship. They have been real partners in this. I've gone to them when I've had problems and it's not worked out. And I've gone to them with successes too. And together we're now not just reaching 40,000 young people, we are reaching hundreds of thousands of young people. And I think that's a good sign of a partnership.
This next clip you'll hear is an interview with James Davis, who is a trainer for Speakers Trust. And he gave me a bit of background about the Speakers Trust again and the training process that the speakers went through to get them to the stage in Brighton. This is James Davis.
My name's James Davis. Hello. And I'm a trainer for Speakers Trust. I've been doing that since about 2017. It's a really, really rewarding job. It's one of the most incredible things I get to do with my time because you get to just go to a different school anywhere in the country, really. I do a lot of work in London, but really you could go here, there and everywhere. And you get to meet a group of amazing young people and spend the day working with them on improving their communication skills, building their confidence. It's a really joyful workshop because once the young people that we're working with realise they can talk about anything they want, anything they're passionate about, anything they're interested in, that's a really, really joyful thing to unlock because I think a lot of the time they perhaps realise or they perhaps think what they have to say doesn't matter or people aren't interested. But the second they have one of us come in and say, I'm really interested in this thing that you really like and I want to know more about it, that sparks a lot of joy for them. It's a really, really cool experience. So this event that we're having here tonight is the Sussex Speak Out Challenge Final, which is so exciting. Where a load of schools from the area are going to come together. We're going to hear some fabulous speakers from each of the schools who are being represented. And they've not been given any guidance about what to speak about. It's just to do with any topic of their choice. So anything they're passionate about, anything they've got a strong opinion on, any change they want to see in the world, that's what they'll be talking about tonight. So it's really exciting.
Now I'm going to share a pre-event conversation I had with our host for the evening, who was also the runner-up of last year's competition. We talked a little bit about his experience last year and his advice for this year's contestants.
Well, my name's Siobhan Demaraj. I'm a former student from Heathrow Community College. And the reason why I'm here is because I was runner-up in the Speak Out Challenge last year.
That is awesome. What did you speak about last year?
I spoke about discrimination, like in general, but also my experience of racism. Yeah.
Tell me more about that. What was the process like to actually write your speech and then how did it feel to deliver it?
I think to write, so a lot of personal reflection, so primary school, then my secondary school, and then the experience of delivering it. I think I said this to someone today. It was kind of like having an epiphany. I realized like, yeah, it's me saying it, but like what actions I'm going to take after this. And yeah, I really enjoyed it as well.
I love that. I love that. And what did you learn about yourself throughout that process as you were writing and then, of course, delivering it?
Don't know, more like the kind of low-key side. I think I learned that maybe I could like put more effort into like delivering and stuff, because I was a bit nervous. So that kind of made me a bit laid back. So I was like thinking, oh, how do I approach this? But also on a more serious note, I think I kind of learned that because it was quite personal for me, I kind of learned that all the things I've kind of accepted in my life and how I should move forward. Like I shouldn't tolerate some stuff that's happened to me, which is why I kind of wrote it. So
Yeah. That's amazing. So if you could share some advice with, as they're about to get on stage, you could share advice with people who are just about to go and do the final. What advice would you share with them?
Well, I think everybody's, written their speech, for themselves. So just think about yourself and what you're already achieving stepping on that stage, and you'll be confident and you'll be fine. Yeah.
Now you're going to hear my pre-event conversation with Phoebe, who was also one of the night's speakers. And following our conversation, you will also hear Phoebe's speech that she shared on stage at the event. This is Phoebe.
Hi, my name's Phoebe and I go to Heathfield and I'm here for the Speak Out Challenge. We originally had our first Speak Out meeting like a month ago, where we just had like a workshop where we got to like do our speeches, write them, like go over what makes the best speech and how to like do it. And then we performed them to each other in the big group. And then the people that did the best got like chosen to go do an assembly to another year group. So I was part of that, and we went to do it to year 7 in an assembly, which went really well. And then we got on to the final bit that we're all right now.
That is so good. Congratulations. It's
Thank
exciting.
you.
It's such a cool scene to be a part of. What did you choose to speak about, and why is that topic the one that you chose?
Well, I chose to speak about how sexism comes into school and the workplace and how the media shapes it and changes the way people have views on it. And I think I chose to do that because like it kind of sticks out to me because I'm quite a feminist and I definitely like advocating for people to have like equal rights. But also because when I was younger, I faced quite a lot of like prejudice based on the subjects that I liked and chose and how I liked to dress and stuff. So I just thought like it needs some speaking out about.
I love that. That is such a wonderful topic. Excited to watch. It'd be awesome. What has been the biggest thing you've learned about yourself as you've been preparing for this?
I think the biggest thing I learned about myself is probably how passionate I am over this topic, but also like how bad I am at leaving it to the last minute to do things. Definitely, because I knew most of my speech, but it's just this week I've been really panicking to try and like learn it all because I've left it quite late.
Procrastination. I actually feel that. I feel that so deeply. So that's a good thing to know about yourself. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. My last question for you is for another young person who might be getting into public speaking or who might want to do similar things. What advice would you want to share with them, especially if they're kind of nervous to do that?
Yeah, definitely to just find what you're passionate about. Because if you're talking about something that you're passionate about, then if you forget what you're trying to say, then you can bring it back to what you want to talk about in your actual speech. But I also just think like if you go out with confidence and you tell yourself that you're not going to be nervous and that you're going to do really well, then I don't think it can go very wrong.
I love that. I love that. That is awesome. I'm going to ask you one bonus question. If you had to sum up how you're feeling right now in one word, what would that be?
Definitely excited.
Love that.
Just kind of staring around, not really sure what to do with yourself. Well, this was me last week in a DT lesson. I looked around my classroom and I realised that there were just 4 girls other than me. Why are teenagers in this generation still choosing subjects that conform to gender stereotypes? I mean, stereotypes can affect your whole life. They can affect your academic experience. Some people may start to conform with these stereotypes and not perform as highly as they could in school. It affects them socially by creating a division in the school community and making people feel isolated, making anxiety a part of everyday life. However, it's not just schools that are affected by these stereotypes. It can even come into the workplace. Did you know the first woman ever to be put in Parliament was in 1919? You may be thinking, whoa, this seems like ages ago. Why is she bringing this up? Parliament was first established in 1236. Why has this carried on throughout history, and why only now are we starting to see how much of a difference it makes to our community. However, it's not just women. Men only make up 13% of all nursing jobs. This is because of the stereotype that men lack the sympathy and warmth needed to care for others. It's like we can't win, no matter what gender we are, how we look, how we dress. The way the media has shaped our society is corrupting our youth. It tells you how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to dress, how your ideas and personalities should be. Why? Why want to be something you're not? Why want to go along with the ideas that you don't agree with? So I say, be kind, be inclusive, and be your own person, not somebody else.
That was such an incredible speech, and you were in luck because I have another to share with you. I also got to talk with Shyla, who was another speaker at the event, and so I'm going to do the same thing where I share my conversation before the event with Shyla, and it will be followed by her performance at the event.
So my name is Shyla, and initially we got offered to do the Speak Out Challenge if we were a prefect, and completely honest, I knew absolutely nothing about it, and I just thought it'd make my prefect application look a bit better. And then I got in and I actually found it really fun. And they said about the competition, I'm quite a driven person, and so I was just determined to do well. And so yeah, I had a really good time doing the workshop.
I love that. That is so wonderful. So tell me about the topic that you chose and why did you choose that topic?
So I chose the contradiction of society. And it's because I've always struggled with perfectionism since I was very, very, very little. And I just think recent years I've learned that actually don't need to be very perfect, and that actually there is my definition of perfect, because no matter how much anyone says it to me, I'm the only person that can tell it to myself.
That is such a wonderful thing to learn. And that actually is kind of the next question I was going to ask you is, what have you learned about yourself through this process? What have been the biggest learnings just as you've been preparing? It can be about yourself or maybe something else. Tell me about that.
Well, every time I've got to do public speaking, I've always been a bit shaky, which is odd because I'm an actor and a singer. I don't mean I'm that sort of person. But every time I public speak, it gets me. But it seems like every time that I do it, I just feel a lot more confident, especially because it's something I'm so passionate about.
I love that. And so much is in practice. I feel like that's what I find. It's just the more you do it, the easier it gets. My last question for you, well, except for the sneak surprise, but for another young person who might want to get into public speaking or might be interested in doing similar things to what you're doing, what advice would you want to share with them, especially if they are nervous to get started?
I think, if I'm honest, when someone says public speaking, it just sounds so scary. But if I'm honest, it's just talking. It's just saying what you think. It's just your opinion, and you already know your opinion. So there's nothing to be nervous about. As long as you know what you're talking about, you're fine.
I love that. That is so true. It is just your opinion, just sharing with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. Keep it simple. So the surprise question is, if you could sum up how you're feeling right now at this moment before you do the event, how are you feeling?
Do you know what? I will be real. I'm feeling a bit nervous, but I'm also actually quite excited because I do really enjoy being on the stage. I think I'm just nervous because I know I don't want to go over my time limit or do things like that, stumble my words. So I think, I just need to decompress a bit, and I actually think I'll be probably better when I'm on the stage.
How am I expected to form society when society does not conform to itself? Okay, let me explain. Children. 1 word, 2 syllables, 8 letters. What do you think of when I say the word children? Innocence? Even purity, maybe? Well, that is not what leader Yao and Shan thought in the 23rd century BC when they opened the first school located in the Zhou dynasty. And may I remind you, the beatings and corporal punishment only stopped in this country in 1968. So, schools stripped children of their parents and took away their juvenile years. Well, when I was a kid, I was told I could be anything in this world. Well, not exactly true, is it? Not when every company I see has a huge pay gap between women and men. I can't go and support a family on that, let alone keeping food on the table for just myself. Honestly, that just means that I have to settle for a job I don't want to do and become a person I don't want to be, all because of my place of work. Kindness, society says. Compassion, society says. War, society says. Hold up. War? Wait, why war? Why do I want to go and kill someone's mum or dad over a little piece of land? Over a little bit of rock in this floating orb we all live on? I don't agree with that. I don't believe that. That's what society says, so I guess that I'm wrong. I sat in PRE the other day. And we discussed the death penalty and whether we agreed with it. And obviously, I said, of course not. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with rehabilitation. And then I looked around at my peers and my teachers, and they were all, "You're too nice, China. You're too lenient, China. You're too kind, China." And I was like, whoa! I was all peace on earth. Why am I bad? But that's what society is telling me, so I guess I am the bad guy, and I guess I'm wrong. Well, anyways. Aliens. Oh my god, I love those things. Yeah, let's drop 47 billion on space explorations. You know, blacks, Irish, Jews. Yeah, let's alienate them. Hold up. I thought aliens were good. So why are we inviting aliens in and alienating others? So I guess that kindness and compassion just doesn't matter. Maybe, I'm not sure. Do you know what? Chuck on. So now I'm going to ask you, how are we expected to conform to society when society does not conform with itself?
Another amazing speech. And after hearing these interviews and clips of the young people speaking, I want you to put yourself in the judge's shoes. I want you to imagine having to judge these speeches and award first, second, and third place. Our judges for the night had their work cut out for them, and I got to catch up with Ruth Price, who was a judge at the event and who is also a trustee at the Ferdinando and Luigi Innocenti Foundation. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Ruth, and we started off with Ruth telling me a little bit about her favorite parts of the evening.
Well, I mean, I was just really privileged to have like a front row seat, you know, as a judge. I didn't really consider that I would be like the first point that the young people could see. That the position to watch young people achieve something that they've been working towards and conquer their anxiety and stage fright. Like I was anxious because I was thinking this is as a judge, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was watching them thinking, oh my goodness, like, I don't think I could do that. And so just watching them up there and seeing them kind of share their opinions and thinking, and in a room full of strangers as well. I know some of them had family and friends there, but there was also a lot of people that they didn't know. So it was just amazing to kind of watch that process, and also to be reminded of the power of 3 minutes. Like 3 minutes is not a long time, but actually it's a really long time. And, you know, a speech that could make you have goosebumps, make you laugh, make you smile, like make you feel like you had a connection to somebody that you'd never met before. So being reminded of that, and the special skill that those young people had learned and then were able to kind of deliver in that time and in that setting.
I think that is so true. And the 3 minutes, it was incredible because for some of them, I was finding myself like, oh, it can't be 3 minutes already. And for other ones, I was like, wow, they've covered so much in 3 minutes. This felt like 3 minutes.
Exactly.
You know? Tell me, so with some of those speeches that you thought were, I mean, I think all of them were incredible with the different topics that they chose, and they were so personal. But what were some of the components that made speeches really memorable for you, especially the ones that maybe stuck with you and you're still thinking about? What were some of those things that made them stand out to you?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's almost not just the topics, but it's like I can see the young people's faces in my mind, the ones that really stuck with me. So I think that was probably a connection of the topic and the young person. So I think for me, it was really the ones that like let me into their world and let me into something that they had experienced or something that they continue to experience that was deeply affecting them, and they wanted to share that with everyone in the room. And so they kind of let me know a little bit about themselves, and then they had like an ask of the people in the room. And it wasn't the ones that were complicated kind of about evidence or research, but it was the ones, and often it wasn't even the eloquence of the speaker, but it was the ones that had that kind of connection. This is my story, this is what I've experienced, and this is what I'm asking of you. And the asks were also quite simple, like to be kinder, to think about what someone else is going through, to be curious about what's possible, to believe that change is possible. So kind of the reminder of that kind of, I guess, that feeling that young people I think it's more visceral for young people, and then kind of sometimes that just disappears. You get a bit cynical about the world, or you don't believe that things are going to change. But for those young people, it was that connection to like, this is who I am, and this is what I need to change in order to really step into my shoes and be myself.
I think that is so true. And there was so many threads to kind of, I guess, through to the personal and then also kind of the wider world and systemic issues. And I just thought it was incredible to see the passion. And it was that like spark moment for a lot of them that I was like, oh, they're just getting into it. It was just so inspiring.
Yeah. And I think we did have that piece where they were saying like passion was a really overused word, but actually that's what it was. It was like you could see the young people having that passion and connection and almost stepping into that in those 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, what I was thinking is sometimes, especially like memorizing and preparing for a speech like this, and you've written it and you're practicing, and sometimes that spark and kind of that passion piece can be lost a little bit because it's just kind of, you're going through the motions. But with those, I don't think so at all. They got on stage and so many people, you could just tell that they were pouring their whole selves into it. And it was really their story, and the laughter in it and the serious topics and just the balance. It was incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
So inspiring. But why do you think it's so important that young people have opportunities like this to share their voices and to receive this training and kind of the wider program? Why do you think this is important?
Yeah, I was really thinking about this, and I think it's something that's quite deep, actually. Something about, I think it's where we started in this conversation. Like, it's the challenge of doing something that actually fills you with fear. And you think, that's something I could never do. I could never like speak for 3 minutes. I could never memorize something. I couldn't speak about something that I feel deeply personal about within a room full of strangers, or in, a setting that's strange to me, like a theatre on a stage with a microphone and lights. So I think it's something about challenging yourself and putting yourself in a position that makes you feel anxious, and then achieving that. So the kind of the process of that, conquering that challenge. I also think that piece around actually being able to share what's important to you with not only your friends and family, because sometimes you don't even share some of those things with your closest friends when you're very young. Being able to do that, and then being able to kind of think about, where does that passion come? Why is that important for me? What do I have to say, and what would I want to change? So going through that process and then being able to share that. I think it's important for people who aren't young anymore to hear from young people, to understand what's important to young people, and also, to make that connection. Actually, some of the things that needed to change when I was young still need to change. And so let's like double down on, so a reminder of that, so that young people are reminding us what we need to work on. And then I think the chance for young people to learn something about themselves, that they can conquer those fears, that maybe they never want to do it again ever afterwards, but that's actually fine. Or maybe that's something they think, actually, I can do more of that. So being able to have the opportunity. And then I think, feeling a sense of achievement and pride, having done it, having kind of conquered that fear and having achieved that. And then I think the final thing I was thinking about is, how often do young people get the chance to just choose what they want to talk about? Usually it would be like, in school, or, your teacher or your mum and dad or your carer or whoever saying, I asking you a question, then you responding, rather than you having the free choice to talk about something that you're passionate about. And then I think the final thing is just having the experience and there was lots of joy on those young people's faces in terms of like being listened to, like having the stage for 3 minutes, and then having the applause and having the acknowledgement from lots of people afterwards that they'd done something that was important.
A huge thank you to everyone who spoke with us, and congratulations to every young person who took part in this year's National Speak Out Challenge. And thank you so much to everyone listening. We hope today's conversations encourage you to speak up about the things you care about, and to discover the confidence that can come from finding your own voice. Join us next time to hear from another guest about another passion and another way young people are shaping their futures. Until then, keep noticing what lights you up and give it space to grow. See you next time.